This is your news source evening bulletin for today, Thursday, the 27th day of June in the year 2024. I'm Gordon Mosley reporting, and here's what we're tracking tonight. In a surprising move this afternoon, executive member of the People's National Congress Reform and Opposition parliamentarian Amanda Walton Desir announced that she was suspending her campaign, effectively bowing out of the race for PNC leader and a number of other positions on the party's executive.
My dear brothers and sisters of the PNCR, I come to you today to announce my decision to suspend my campaign for PNCR leadership. This decision has been incredibly difficult, but it has been made after deep reflection and extensive discussion with my team and close advisors. Throughout my campaign, I have been dedicated to upholding the values of transparency, decency, fairness, and integrity within our beloved party.
The PNC Reforms Congress and the elections are set for this weekend, with the Congress opening tomorrow afternoon at party headquarters, Congress Place. Walton Desir has cited a number of recent developments in the lead-up to the Congress and the elections as the reasons behind her decision to walk away from the leadership race.
As of today, June 27th, one day before the commencement of our Congress, a preliminary list of delegates has not been made available to me as a candidate to allow for claims and objections, and there is a lack of agreement among all candidates contesting on the procedures for the conducting of the elections. These and several other issues necessitate careful consideration and resolution to ensure the continued integrity of our party. And while I believe it is vital to address these concerns, I also recognize the importance of doing so in a manner that preserves our unity and our strength.
And in suspending her campaign, she said her work has not ended in the PNC reform.
Though I am suspending this campaign, our work does not end here. We must continue to fight for and advocate for the values that we believe in and push for the changes our party needs. I encourage all members who are supportive of me and the PNCR to remain united and strong during this challenging period. Our strength is our unity and our shared commitment to a better future for our party and our country. Together we can overcome any obstacle and ensure that our principal goals are met.
With Walton Desir leaving the race for leadership, it means that the race has now become a two-man race, with the incumbent leader Aubrey Norton remaining confident as he still faces a challenge from party executive member, senior counsel Roysdale Ford. Ironically, 10 years ago, it was Norton as a contender for the party's leadership who had bowed out of the race just before the Congress and elections, citing concerns about the delegates list and the preparations for the elections then. Similar concerns are now being raised again as he sits in the leadership chair. Mr. Roysdale Ford and his team have been expressing concerns of their own about the preparations for the party's Congress and related issues. The administrator for the party Congress, Sherwin Benjamin, has indicated that all systems are in place for a transparent Congress and elections. More news coming up in just a moment.
It's one of your biggest goals, getting your own home, where memories are made, where happiness lives. You may feel that home ownership or renovation is beyond your reach, but we at Republic want you to know that there's always a way. Ask us about our suite of mortgages. Let's help make your housing wishes come true. Or advise on how the equity in your existing home can finance other dreams and goals. Call or go online to learn more.
This thing turning into a freak show.
KFC's Nothing to Laugh About 15 hits the National Cultural Center on the 29th and 30th of June at 8 p.m.
Your Honor,
after all the money I spent on it, he ungrateful, man. I used to think to myself that he gonna make it. But now I know for sure, he not gonna make it.
It's KFC not in the last about 15!
A US-based member of the People's National Congress Reform wants the High Court to grant an injunction blocking this weekend's Congress and elections over concerns that the electoral process might not be fair. According to a press statement from the VMW law firm, the injunction forms part of two lawsuits filed in the High Court by Brian Collison, a member of the People's National Congress Reform, who is seeking to hold Guyana's major political parties more accountable. Collison is being represented by attorney-at-law Dr. Vivian Williams. In one of the lawsuits, leader of the People's National Congress Reform Aubrey Norton and the party are listed as the respondents. The statement said the action seeks to ensure that irregularities in the process leading up to the selection of delegates for the PNC Congress do not compromise the will of the members of the party and the party's support base. Through his lawyer, Collison is asking the court for a declaration that political parties have a duty to adopt procedures for fair internal elections. In the interim, he wants the High Court to issue an injunction to prevent the People's National Congress Reform from proceeding with the election of a party leader and other officers until such a time that fairness is guaranteed. Describing himself as a reformer, Collison said he brought the action to ensure members are given a fair chance to participate in the Congress and elections based on party rules and is devoid of any manipulation. He has also asked the court to make a number of declarations, including a declaration that political parties are legal entities that can be sued. He said he is deeply concerned about claims of irregularities in the management of the upcoming Congress and elections. Collison also filed another lawsuit, this time naming the Attorney General Anand Lal, the PP General Secretary Bara Jagdeo, and the People's National Congress Reform leader Aubrey Norton as the respondents. In that case, he is seeking several declarations from the court about the standing and obligations of political parties in the country, in ensuring that the right to vote provided for in the Constitution is not diluted and hindered by unfairness in internal party procedures. 2 weeks after the Guyana government through the Ministry of Finance requested information from the U.S. Treasury Department on the evidence that led to the sanctions against Guyanese billionaire businessmen Nazar and Azruddin Mohammed and Permanent Secretary May Thomas, the U.S. government has directed queries to its Department of Justice. In a statement last night, the minister responsible for finance, Dr. Ashna Singh, explained that the Guyana government received a response from Washington, advising that the information request be sent from the Office of the Attorney General to the U.S. Department of Justice, which will then work with the U.S. Office of Foreign Assets Control to gather source documentation on the matter. The government was further advised that while the process could be a long one, it should be aided by the fact that both Guyana and the U.S. are signatories to the Inter-American Convention on Mutual Legal Assistance. Additional information was also shared on the mutual legal assistance process. The finance minister said the government will now submit the request to the U.S. Justice Department. He also said the Guyana government will also continue to pursue its efforts to get more information through the Tax Information Exchange Agreement. The agreement provides for the exchange of information to administer and enforce laws concerning the taxes specified, to assure the accurate assessment and collection of taxes, to prevent fiscal fraud and evasion, and to develop improved information sources for tax matters. In addition to the mutual legal assistance process, Dr. Singh said he expects that the arrangements in place for the exchange of tax information and cooperation between tax authorities will provide a means through which relevant information can be shared on matters of this nature in a timely and effective manner. Following the actions taken on the 11th of June by the Office of Foreign Assets Control to sanction the Guyanese businessmen and the Permanent Secretary, the government of Guyana, through the Ministry of Finance and the Guyana Revenue Authority, wrote to the U.S. Treasury Department requesting relevant information in relation to the sanctions. President Irfan Ali has said that a full investigation will be undertaken locally, since no one is above the law.
As you know, there's a lot of intricacies and all the right decisions. The agencies are independent and they will take all the necessary decisions. All the necessary decisions that are relevant to this case, based on the information set, based on the law, will be taken by the agency.
The Mohammeds were sanctioned over their alleged under-declaration of gold and the evasion of more than $50 million in local taxes, while Permanent Secretary May Thomas was sanctioned over her alleged involvement in a bribery scheme linked to the Mohammeds, and also her alleged role in protecting them from criminal prosecution and investigation, according to the U.S. report. Vice President Barra Jagdeo today said the government will soon close a deal with Total Energies Consortium, which includes the Qatar Energy Company and Petronas, but may have to scrap its offer to some of the other winners of the country's lucrative offshore blocks if they are unable to meet the criteria set out in the new production sharing agreement. Total Energies is the only group to date that has received cabinet's approval from the list of 6 bidders that submitted a total of 14 bids for 8 of the 14 offshore blocks that were put up for public auction.
No, the discussions are ongoing, but I think they're nearing completion.
CISPRO Inc., International Group Investments Inc., and Montego Energy, Liberty Petroleum Corporation, and Sibeli Energy, ExxonMobil, Hess and Sinuk, and Delcor Inc., Watad Energy, and Arabian Drillers are the other bidders who were successful in their bids. Singling out ExxonMobil and its partners, the vice president said, while the group has raised concerns about some of the non-fiscal terms in the new PSA, other bidders have difficulties accumulating the substantial fees and are in search of new partners. These challenges, he said, have stalled negotiations.
Some, for various reasons, some can't find the partners, some can't raise the fees, the substantial fees they have to pay, the signing bonus. And with the Exxon Group, I think it's mainly about some of the conditions, particularly the non-fiscal conditions. So these have not been concluded.
Mr. Jagdeo said if the bidders are unable to meet the criteria set out in the new PSA, the government may very well be forced to abandon the process with them.
If they can't do so, we're not going to conclude with them. We might just have to abandon the process.
The government had signaled its intention to host another bid round for its offshore blocks, but with no agreement signed to date from the first auction, it is unclear when the other round will begin. The vice president said several factors are influencing the auctioning process.
It's the era, the era now that people are, particularly the large companies, are very selective in the 70-odd auctions that are taking place around the world in how they get involved. So that's one. Two, the capacity to finance exploration activities at this stage has been diminished seriously globally. Thirdly, people, particularly with IEA estimating peak oil at 2030, that a lot of people believe that if they explore even now and they find reserves, that these will be stranded, that you may not be able to develop them, move to a project, even if you discover. So the international environment is impacting the auctions globally in a serious manner.
Under the new production sharing agreement, the royalty on all petroleum produced and sold by the contractor has been increased from 2%, as embedded in the Stabroek Block PSA, to 10%. It also includes the retention of the 50-50 profit sharing after cost recovery. However, a company would not be able to recover more than 65% of the cost at a time.
All my documents up on my phone because everything is digital now these days, and I have it on my phone. But the thing is that the phone battery dead.
KFC's Nothing to Laugh About 15 hits the National Cultural Center on the 29th and 30th of June at 8 p.m.
Tickets $2,000, $3,000, and $4,000. It's KFC Nothing to Laugh About 15. Madness in the capital. I feel like I'm running tongue again. Jump and shake the ground again.
NYC, New York City. Get ready as the original Big People Party with the same vibes you've seen and loved comes to you this Labor Day weekend on Saturday, August 31st with some of the biggest one-man bands out of Guyana and New York. Look out for Super A, Murphy, Busta, and Super Terry. Big People Party! Along with the legendary Glenn Washington.
Baby, don't take my kindness for weakness. If loving you is wrong,
Glenn Washington.
I don't wanna be right.
Glenn Washington and his band at Industry City, New York City. Get your super early bird general tickets at $40 and VIP access $150 all inclusive. And all are available at hjexperience.com. This event is brought to you by Hits and Jabs Entertainment, Marvelous Entertainment, and GD Events. It's the original Big People Party at Industry City, New York City on Saturday, August 31st. The big and proper edition.
Mobil 1 is more than oil. It's many oils. It transforms at the molecular level. When cold, it's thicker than honey. When hot, it's thinner than water. Mobil 1 adapts and readapts to last longer. 16,000 kilometers between oil changes. That's your engine evolved.
Sol Guyana is the authorized distributor of Mobil lubricants.
The Caribbean Court of Justice has dismissed an appeal filed by political commentator Raymond Gaskin, who wanted the court to have Hess Guyana Exploration Limited and China National Offshore Oil Corporation Guyana, CNOOC, obtain separate environmental permits for their involvement in the local oil sector. An environmental permit was granted to Esso Exploration Limited, and it is under that permit that the co-venturers Hess and CNOOC are being covered. The lawyers representing the two companies had argued that the companies, by being co-venturers, would be covered by the permit granted to Esso Exploration. Mr. Gaskin had challenged a petroleum production license issued to Hess and CNOOC by former Minister of Natural Resources Raphael Trotman, whom he said ought not to have granted that license, since those two companies did not have separate environmental permits. Back in 2020, the acting Chief Justice Roxanne George threw out the case and ruled that Hess and CNOOC did not need separate environmental permits from the co-venturer Esso Exploration, or ExxonMobil Guyana, which was the developer to conduct the oil exploration here. The Gaskin then approached the Court of Appeal, which later determined that the minister did not breach the Environmental Protection Act by granting a petroleum production license to ExxonMobil Guyana Limited, CNOOC Petroleum Guyana Limited, and Hess Exploration for the Liza 1 project, as the environmental permit granted was tied to the Liza 1 project itself. Gaskin appealed to the CCJ, seeking to have the Court of Appeal decision set aside. The CCJ was asked to determine two issues: whether the minister acted unlawfully in granting the petroleum production license to Exxon, Hess and CNOOC when Exxon was granted an environmental permit, and whether the High Court and the Court of Appeal breached the statutory time limit in delivering their judgments. In delivering the judgment of the Caribbean Court this afternoon, Justice Winston Anderson ruled that a license which was granted to Exxon as the operator of the project was subject to extensive environmental obligations, which were also extended to Hess and Sinuk through joint liability. And the court also found that the three companies share responsibility for environmental harm caused by their operations, and that there was no increased risk of harm to the environment in either the precautionary principle or avoidance principle by the inclusion of the two companies. Gaskin had also asked the CCJ to rule that both the Court of Appeal and the High Court were in breach of their statutory obligations relating to the length of time in delivering their respective judgments. The Caribbean Court of Justice cited the technical nature of the matter and the need for time, although the court stressed the importance of timelines. Consequently, the court said it will not impose costs on Mr. Gaskin, since his court case was a genuine one. The Linden Town Council, with support of the Region 10 Democratic Council and the National Drainage and Irrigation Authority, is currently carrying out emergency works in the central Mackenzie area following torrential rainfall that led to massive flooding. At a press conference yesterday, the mayor of Linden, Sharma Solomon, said over the past 5 days the town has been experiencing severe flooding and erosion across its 8 constituencies due to heavy rainfall. He said the floods have disrupted commercial activity in the town, especially in the business district, forcing even a commercial bank to close its doors because of the flood waters.
Severe weather which would have affected especially the central business district, but continues to affect most of the constituencies across Linden. So I want to say that this severe weather have severely affected us and have caused not only the level of flooding that we've never seen before, but unprecedentedly so, that would have impacted many homes and businesses.
The mayor said earlier on Wednesday he met with officials from the RDC and the CDC, as well as other stakeholders within the town, to discuss emergency works to alleviate the flooding.
We have identified for the short, medium, and long-term approach of the municipality is our immediate intervention is to look at the Republic Avenue area, where we have recognized that with the lack of maintenance of the drainage system, and these systems were asked to be remedied by the RDC several months ago and the municipality. We are making that request once again for the intervention of emergency spending to clean the western and eastern sides of the drains along the Republic Avenue. That is our short-term intervention, which should take place no less than 24 hours from now because of the severity of the storm and the wet pattern. Not only the clearing of those 2 drains, but also the clearing of creeks and canals within the vicinity that leads into those drains that we have found to also be compromised.
Mayor Solomon said it is important for all stakeholders, including the central government, to lend support to address the poor drainage network in the township, which has been starved of maintenance. In the medium and long term, the town council will hire a consultant to analyze the town's drainage network and assess the flood pattern before putting permanent solutions in place. With those recommendations, the council intends to work with the central government as well as with the business community and with residents to add the mitigation measures.
The municipality over the past several months, along with the RDC, have made several recommendations with reference to the intervention of spending. The Prime Minister on the 30th identified where central government is working with local government through the REO and the town clerk. I want to say to the town of Linden that we would like to encourage government to ensure that there is true, sincere, meaningful participation of all states.
And Mayor Solomon said the neglect of the drainage network has now resulted in severe flooding and hundreds of millions of dollars in losses, and that cannot continue.
In the West Watuka area, you have almost $9 million worth of damages to just 5 farmlands, and we are still to ascertain from 9 more persons, which we are estimating will take us to about $20 million. We have drainage issues in the Karakara area, which takes us to about $30 million in damages to households. In the Nikadak community, we have another $35 million of damages for residents in terms of what they suffered on the 29th. In the other communities of the alleys and the valleys at Wisma, there's another $60 million worth of damages to furniture and the life and the livelihood of residents across those.
Meanwhile, he noted that many of the residents who were affected by an earlier flood back in May are still awaiting help from the central government. He said he will continue to make representation on their behalf. 27-year-old West Coast Demerara reporter Neldon Neblett was charged on Wednesday for the murder of his reputed wife, Anuradha Khatun, who worked as a vendor. Neblett is accused of stabbing the woman to death at her West Village, West Coast Demerara home. He was not required to enter a plea to the indictable murder charge when he appeared before Magistrate Rondell Weaver. His next court appearance has been set for the 6th of August. In an earlier report, the Guyana police force stated that on Saturday night, after Neblett returned home in a drunken state, that the reputed wife spoke to him about his alcohol drinking habits. The man retaliated by arming himself with a knife and stabbed the woman to her neck, according to the report. He ran from the scene but was arrested the following day. Family members said the woman had repeatedly complained about the man's alcohol drinking habits. Relatives had encouraged her to leave the relationship.
Look at the breathtaking beauty of the Essequibo. From its pristine rivers to its abundant resources, it's a treasure that belongs to Guyana, and we ask Venezuela to respect the rule of international law.
Our commitment to this land is not just about ownership. It's about preserving its beauty and resources for our people and future generations.
The controversy between Guyana and Venezuela was settled internationally as full, perfect, and final in 1899. Essequibo belongs to Guyana.
Guyana's economy is rapidly transforming, and we're all part of it. Guyoil is at the forefront of this development by providing reliable and efficient energy and supporting community development from the very core. 100% of Guyoil's profit goes back to building schools, roads, and other important infrastructure that connects our cities and towns, providing fuel to domestic, marine, industrial, and aerial transportation. Guyoil has now repositioned itself as a market leader in the petroleum industry, building a better future for all of us.
It's one of your biggest goals, getting your own home, where memories are made, where happiness lives. You may feel that home ownership or renovation is beyond your reach, but we at Republic want you to know that there's always a way. Ask us about our suite of mortgages. Let's help make your housing wishes come true, or advise on how the equity in your existing home can finance other dreams and goals. Call or go online to learn more.
Bust the flavors. We're full of flavors. Bust the flavors that me crave for. We're full of flavors. Tell your neighbors about the bust the flavors. Grab a bust the flavors. Yeah, thirst buster. Grab a buster. Bust the flavor, taste the savor. Bust the flavors. Bust the flavors.
With your regional and international news tonight, I'm Svetlana Marshall. In the region, Bolivian armed forces pulled back from the presidential palace in La Paz on Wednesday evening, and a general was arrested after President Luis Arce slammed a coup attempt against the government and called for international support. Earlier in the day, military units led by General Juan Jose Zuniga, recently stripped of his military command, had gathered in the central Plaza Square, home to the presidential palace and Congress. A Reuters witness saw an armored vehicle rammed the door of the presidential palace and soldiers rush in. A few hours later, a Reuters witness saw soldiers withdraw from the square and police take control of the plaza. Bolivian authorities arrested Zuniga and took him away, though their destination was unclear. Inside the presidential palace, Arce swore in Jose Wilson Sanchez as the military commander, Zuniga's former role. He called for calm and order to be restored. The United States said it was closely monitoring the situation and urged calm and restraint. Visitors and residents of the U.S. Virgin Islands have been advised to take precautions and remain vigilant as new data has shown an increase in cases of dengue fever. The health commissioner said data collected by the epidemiology division up to June 24 show there were 8 dengue cases on St. Thomas and 1 in St. John. The commissioner noted that health officials know there are more cases across the territory than was reported in the last epidemiological update. Islanders and visitors have been urged to use Environmental Protection Agency EPA registered insect repellents. They have also been advised to clean around their homes and reduce mosquito breeding sites. And finally tonight, international news. Israel stormed a neighborhood in Gaza City on Thursday, ordering Palestinians to move south as the tanks rolled in and bombing the southern city of Rafah in what it says are the final stages of an operation against Hamas militants there, according to Reuters. According to the residents, they were taken by surprise by the sound of tanks approaching and firing in the early afternoon, with drones also attacking after overnight bombing of the city, which Israel had bombed early in the war. Later on Thursday, the Palestinian Civil Emergency Service said the Israeli military strikes had killed at least 7 people so far. More casualties are feared to be under the rubble, where rescue teams cannot reach, it said. Footage obtained by Reuters show women, men and children carrying bags and food as they ran in the streets after the raid began. Some men carried injured children, some bleeding in their arms as they fled. An Israeli military spokesperson said they had no comment on reports of casualties.
And that's your News Source Evening Bulletin for tonight. I'm Svetlana Marshall reporting and encouraging you to stay safe.